For Bama Central, I'm Joe Gaither alongside Katie Wyndham, Will Miller, and Hunter DeCiver. And we're right outside Bryant-Denny Stadium as the Crimson Tide just concluded the first fall camp scrimmage of the year. We heard from Coach Kalen DeBoer. He talked compliments about many position groups, and we're closer and closer, 3 weeks now, away from kicking off against Florida State. Katie Wyndham, what was your biggest takeaway from our time with Coach DeBoer?
I think with Kalen, because he is so not specific or very hesitant, it seems to give out praise in press conferences. Obviously, something that people like to say about is that he didn't have a problem with tearing into players, and Kalen doesn't do that as much, but he also almost doesn't offer specific praise as much. So anytime he does, my ear really catches that. So the fact that he mentioned a guy like Yante Pierre, that's a guy that people have kind of been waiting to break out, I think that's a good sign. That's something encouraging. Jay Miller's a name that's been coming up a lot in camp. Obviously, he's no stranger. He played a lot last year. But I think that's big for him. Daniel Hill also came up in the running backs. And so I think they don't know as much about running back behind those two, but I think anytime he mentions a guy by name, that kind of stands out to me. And then, of course, I'm sure some of you all will get into it, but the fact that he kind of gave a timeline for the quarterbacks, I think is huge as well, because that's obviously the biggest question surrounding the team right now.
Will Miller, Hunter DeCiver, what about you guys? Your biggest takeaway from our time with Coach Kalen DeBoer?
I thought the continued mention of Rico Scott is a big thing, and that's who I personally expect will take over that wide receiver for mantle to start the year. Clearly had an impressive camp. He's been the example that they're using on how to block at the wide receiver position. He did mention Cole Adams, who had the injury issues last year and only played in 7 games, and I expect that those guys will probably be shoulder to shoulder right there. I was just mentioning it to Hunter, but to hear them mentioned, and Isaiah Horton as well, who will be the third man in all likelihood. Praise has been heaped his way as well. And Kalen didn't, like Katie, you said that he's not really specific sometimes, and he didn't mention anything specific today that Isaiah Horton did, but he did mention his name. He said Horton got his opportunity, and that can only mean that he impressed in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest takeaways is definitely with the QBs, as Kitty alluded to. DeBoer said that they'll likely have to name a starter by next week's scrimmage, so next Saturday, sometime a little after that. And he obviously talked about the scrimmage today itself, and something that we kind of learned is that a 3-man race, it still is, but it seems like Keelan Russ might be slipping a little bit back, and that's definitely due to his experience. Kalen said it numerous times when he talked about just calling out plays. It seemed like Russell he wasn't necessarily hesitant, but he wasn't as sharp as Mac and Ty Simpson were. So as of right now, it seems like Ty and Mac are the 1 and 2 in this race, and then Russell is 3.
Well, we're right outside Bryant-Denny Stadium right after Alabama's first fall camp scrimmage. Alabama will scrimmage one more time next Saturday, and then we're basically into game week. So stay tuned to BamaCentral.com as we're covering every single aspect of fall camp. Who will be named starting quarterback? How will the offensive line shake out? Hopefully, we'll get some guys healthy through the next couple of weeks, and we'll be right there ready for the start of the 2025 season. For Katie Wyndham, Will Miller, and Hunter DeCiver, I'm Joe Gaither. This is BamaCentral.com right after Alabama's first fall camp scrimmage.